Hello there. My name is Greg Sherman and I am the instructor for this section of EDUC 605, Educational Research. I'm coming to you from my home office here, a comfortable environment for me to communicate important things. And this is where I do most of my work for the class. And I'm coming to you via this video at the beginning of the class so that, first of all, you can see that there is this human being who is going to be managing the course and making decisions about how things operate and what experiences you have. And I'll be the person that you contact when there are things you don't understand or things you just want to discuss. This is an online course, as you know, and it's asynchronous, meaning that we won't be having any actual class meetings, either in person or online via Zoom or any other kind of conferencing environment. But I am available. I'm available via a phone call or I'm happy to hop online if we need to discuss something important. And it's possible as time nears for things like the midterm exam, it's possible that if enough students want to have a gathering with me to discuss things related to something like the exam or the final project, I'll be happy to arrange that. But for now, we're just going to have to exist in this computer world where I'm just coming to you through these recorded video. But I'm happy to do it, and I hope that you do get a lot out of these experiences over the next few months. So, as I mentioned, this is educational research, and you're taking this class because you are students in a Master of Science in Education program. And that's very important, because have you ever stopped to think, what does the science mean in your degree? Why is it a Master of Science? Some people get Master of Arts degrees, or some people get Master of Education degrees, or any number of master's degrees, but you're getting a degree in science. Interesting, huh? Well, let me say a little bit about that. It's a science degree because, theoretically anyway, the foundations of what you're going to be learning in this education-related program are rooted in a scientific approach and in scientific thinking. And that definitely summarizes this class and the approach of this class. One thing you're going to learn early on in the course is that it focuses on helping you think more scientifically about the field of education and about your role in it as an educator. So thinking scientifically represents a very clearly defined sort of set of attributes, and it is those attributes that are going to be sort of cultivated throughout this class. Now, thinking about science and about thinking scientifically, I'm doing something a little bit different this semester than I've done it in the past. And in the past, I have adopted educational research texts that focus on kind of the fundamental sort of building blocks of the field of educational research. And this semester I'm trying something a little bit different, and the only officially assigned readings besides the course notes are coming from two books that are about science, but they're not written like a dense scientific textbook. The first is called When Can You Trust the Experts? And it's written by one of my favorite psychologists, or educational psychologists, I should say, Daniel Willingham. He's at the University of Virginia. And this is a very important book in terms of what does it mean to think scientifically about educational research in general. And so we have this book, and then we also have for this course a book called Understanding How We Learn, a Visual Guide. And this is actually, to me, this is a fascinating book because it presents some fundamental learning theory, foundational learning theory ideas, but it puts it in a very kind of non-technical language, and it uses the power of graphics, of illustrations, to help communicate the fundamental messages. And I really, really appreciate information that's so well organized and that has a strong graphic support to it. And this is it. And one thing that I'm going to have you do in this class is, in the very first couple of weeks, I'm going to ask you to read about half of both of these books. And that sounds like a huge mountain of work early on. But first of all, one thing you're going to learn is that these texts are very easy to read. They're not like studying a big, dense textbook. Also, I want you to read them. I don't want you to study them. I want you to read them as if you're reading something that is inherently interesting to you. And I actually think you're going to find both of these very interesting. I do ask you to focus on some specific elements within the assigned chapters and have you reflect on them, but they're all related to scientific thinking and to your own experiences with some of the big ideas that are being presented. So we're going to start the class by having you tackle half of both of these, and then we're going to kind of put them aside until we get to the big course project. So this class is really broken up into two main parts. The first part has to do with some learning about scientific thinking, reasoning, and how all of that applies to educational research and the overall field of educational research. And I have a lot of important notes that I've compiled into a file that you can download and copy, or just keep them on your computer if you want. But there won't be anything that you really have to take notes on, even though I present some video-based lectures. All the salient information and examples are going to be included in the notes that I have online on the course website. And speaking of the course website, you're watching this video on the course website, and this will be the place where you come to regularly for the class. I use this kind of web-based interface versus a learning management interface like we use D2L at Radford. And I do that because I find it a little bit more creative, and also I find it more user-friendly to develop things and to navigate through. Now, at times it might seem like things are not quite as organized as what you typically might find in a learning management system, but that's kind of just the price you pay for having a more approachable overall web-based learning environment. At least I think so from my perspective. So before you jump into the specifics of this class, I do want to impress upon you something that I think is really important, and that is the importance of this class, or a class like this. And actually what I should say is the importance of you learning more about scientific thinking and earning a graduate degree in science, and how important that is. I don't know about you, but I am still reeling from the pandemic experience that we all suffered through over the last couple of years. And as I'm recording this video, it's still going on. There are still many, many people in this country and across the world who are suffering from COVID and its effects. But part of me having trouble kind of recovering from the pandemic wasn't the disease itself. Luckily, I never contracted it. At least I don't think I did. But it was really how, as a nation, we responded to that experience. That's what I'm really trying to recover from. Because to me, never before in my life, and I've lived a good while, probably longer than many of you, I'm sure. I hope so anyway. But I have never experienced a societal challenge like we had, and watched as so many people honestly, failed the test. They failed the test. Currently, about 1.2 million people in the United States died from the disease. They died from it. And it didn't have to be that bad. We were lucky that we got the vaccines developed so quickly and that they were done to acceptable standards and practices in the field of medicine. That to me was astounding. But what I was just kind of floored by were how many people just sort of turned their back on science and just pursued belief systems that had no grounding in anything rational at all. And what happened in those cases was that things went from bad to worse. And again, it didn't have to be that way, but it was. And all I can say is that the only way that we are going to be able to weather another one of these, and it will happen for sure, is if we commit ourselves to raising scientifically minded people. That is it. And the only way we can raise scientifically minded people is if our students' teachers are scientifically minded. Now, I know as a parent myself, I know that a child's primary teacher is their parent or their parents. And so raising scientifically minded parents would be the first step. And so I'm really glad that a class like that can help contribute to grown-ups learning more about scientific thinking, valuing it more, and encouraging others to look at challenges and problems with a more reasonable and rational mind, and that they and that they crusade for it, champion it, and also hold accountable those people who don't, because it affects all of us. And so this is a crazy time to be alive, you know. It's a crazy time to be an educator. And I'm just like for example, you know, during COVID, I ended up watching a lot more TikTok than I ever had, and I hate TikTok. Love it, but I also hate it. And one of the things I was so discouraged of was watching all these TikTok videos of teachers who were so happy to give up teaching. They were so happy to say, I'm going to choose something else. And they gave you all these reasons why they were doing that from the bunker, you know, like from the quarantine. And I just thought that was kind of sad because the acknowledgement that teaching is a very, very challenging job is there. But it's also one of the most important, and the evidence is right in front of us. You know how important it is to raise members of society who can think and think on their feet and be rational. Boy, that's what we need. But the good news is that we can do it. We can do it, and we can do it because we know how people learn. We know how to help people become more scientifically minded, and that is precisely what this class is all about. So I hope you can take that message with you as you step into the class and as you begin reading these texts and look at the information and examples that I'm providing. As you move forward and as you move forward throughout this semester. So the first half of the class is about thinking scientifically and the foundations of ed research. Second part of the class is doing a project, and this semester you have a choice. I'll have two different projects, and I'll say more about that as the class progresses. I'm not going to say a lot about it right now, but you'll have two choices, and they'll be very clear, and you'll have plenty of time to figure out which of those two you want to do. And that is how the course is structured from the macroscopic level. And now it's time to get into the particulars of the class. And for that, I'm just going to have you click the, first of all, the website overview button below, and that will orient you to everything that's on this website, the course website. And then after you orient yourself and you're comfortable, then go ahead and get started with the class by clicking on the Part 1 introduction. And as always, I'm going to remind you throughout the semester, please contact me if you have any questions, comments, or concerns about anything that's being presented in this class.